The year is 2023.
The loot crate system is disgusting. It has me worried. Is this the trade-off that we're going to have in the future?
Win69 stream, we saw that he spent $25,165.57 in order to finally loot his first 5 out of 5 star gem.
Full price games have ads on it.
Now here's the commercial that 2K recently added into the game. Do you see the difference? There's no button to go to the pregame show. This is a complete unskippable commercial.
There's DLCs that cost more than some cars.
Adding up all these prices, we'll see what the total is for every item in GTA Online. $5,780 US in shark cards.
This is actually crazy when you think about it. But this didn't happen overnight. Video game companies started shifting into this version of evil corporations in Cyberpunk, you know, like Arasaka, rather than the pizza-fueled bros that were just making games back in the day in the 2000s. People who broke their backs and sweated to make GTA, Call of Duty, Battlefield, all those great franchises that we always loved. Even though soaking chicken into NyQuil, that's kind of new. That's on us. But how did we get to this point? Was it just a natural evolution of the desires of gamers to actually have all this bullshit instead of having, you know, plot and actually interesting activities? Instead of that, we opted to have banana suits. When you have someone like me, you know, around 23 years of age, sounding like a boomer, you know, saying shit like, you know, back in my day, it's a bad sign. It's not something that I like to do. Nostalgia shouldn't be kicking in this soon. We should be living the best years of gaming, since the audience and even revenue, both of them tripled nearly all these years. Yet, this is far from being true. It seems to be a current trend that would make us draw a conclusion. Some would even defend it through thick and thin, that this happened just because games are inherently more expensive to produce now. A spoiler alert for this part, it's bullshit. Maintenance. That's all they say to justify the microtransactions. You would swear video game companies are developing fucking rocket ships at this point with the money that we pour in every single day to them. $800 million of yearly revenue alone for GTA Online. I mean, what kind of costs would they have, I guess, to servers that they don't actually use because they have a peer-to-peer connection methodology? Well, wait, where the fuck is the money going? Going back to simpler times, the mere concept of monetizing a game after its release was quite simply an impossible task to even imagine, as the whole live service gaming thing wasn't even a possibility in the years 2000s. Adjacently, this also meant that the games had to come out finished. There was no do-overs. Your only next chance to fix the game would be on revisions that would only be shipped out on CD versions, physical copies, since remote updating wasn't a thing. GTA San Andreas, for example, for the PlayStation 2 had the version 1.0, you know, the pre-release, very infamous copy that offered the hide the noodle in your girlfriend simulator. Oh boy, Hillary did not like that.
It is also clear that there are games that are just not appropriate for children.
Yeah, Hillary, so you mean the games that have a big ass fucking red warning saying it's for above 18? Those games are not appropriate for children that are not in fact above 18? Wow. Maybe the same way that you don't feed whiskey instead of milk on their cereal bowl, maybe don't give mature games to kids? I don't know, maybe it's a wild thought, or maybe, I don't know. 1.03, which is the official release version for the PlayStation 2, 2.01, 3.0, and actually that's pretty much it. The game was finished within 3 updates. Hell, some would even say that the game was fine as is in the first version. I'm just gonna say, you know, the hot coffee thing, it gave a little bit of human touch to the game, I'll just say that. So even when developers had to fix a game or add content, they had a limited amount of attempts to do so. Failure to improve the game in a desired way would actually result in the loss of sale, loss of money, because people would just not buy your new versions. And this means a loss of money because you still have CDs to sell. Nowadays, developers don't feel that pressure whatsoever. Like a group of spoiled teenagers, all they have to say is, we'll do better next time. Even if they end up not doing better next time. Or not even updating at all. The money's already in the bank. That's how 433 industry.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
That's how 343 Industries, goddamn name, the developers of Halo Infinite, were able to backtrack on their announcement of the reintroduction of split screen to Halo.
We have had to make the difficult decision not to ship campaign split screen co-op.
Oh, it will be 3 months after launch, don't worry about it. Well, the developers now can weaponize remote updating as a false promise that brings the players to buy first and ask questions later. After all, they can just introduce the feature anytime they want, right? Well, yeah, if they give a shit about you, which they won't because they already got your money. And guess what they chose to prioritize over the split screen? Yep, a feature that pretty much represents Halo. Everyone wanted the split screen. It got ditched because of the seasonal fucking packages that no one gives a shit about. It's quite hilarious now to look back and see how the first microtransaction ever sold by a AAA company, which at the time was Bethesda, when they sold horse armor on Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, made absolutely everyone outraged over a $2.50 microtransaction. I think deep down people knew back then. Because it's the good old, it's about the principle, not the money shebang, you know? But what makes us laugh today at those people who are outraged for a $2.50 microtransaction? Is it because it's truly not a big deal? Or is it because we are slaves to today's standard mentality? When we allow microtransactions to hit hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I mean, that's not micro at all. When you rationalize it, you realize, like, goddamn, $2.50 is too expensive for any in-game asset. If we consider a game that was worth $60 back then, let's maybe imagine GTA San Andreas. Everyone knows GTA San Andreas. This would mean each individual asset, this would be characters, weapons, clothes, things we pay microtransactions for today, are valued in a fractions of a cent if they were sold by the unit. So $2.50 for a piece of apparel? That's $2.50 too high. It isn't so crazy to now understand that this was the major fallacy that broke the camel's back. The lack of proportional pricing. At this point, we aren't paying for better content like DLCs.
It's nice to see you, Mr. Big Shot.
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect.
Now we are paying for undeserved bragging rights. And this is where we can separate the boys from the men in this little analogy of ours. I have a challenge for you. Think of your favorite AAA game that you still at least give a fuck about. The one that you dedicated countless hours to grind, or just in general having fun, if that's still even possible in 2023. Now, I ask you, does it have any form of microtransactions or seasonal passes, some bullshit like that? Now, since I can't have the pleasure of having this conversation with you personally, allow me to use Twitch as a metric, and oh my god, that's a lot of microtransactions. Now, think of the game of the year of last year, 2022. Where was the monetization in Elden Ring? Hell, think about the runner-up, God of War. Where was the monetization then? Can you get a skin for Kratos' axe in fucking pink? Is it possible for Kratos to throw the flaws on his enemies? Curious how that wasn't a necessity for the game to be considered Game of the Year. Funny things happen when monetized assets aren't pushed as main game content. So it's clear that this new trend isn't what gamers ever wanted, but instead is the only thing that is offered to us, so we don't have an option. So no wonder that this monetization seems efficient. It's literally that or playing with ants, I don't know. But you ask, they wouldn't be doing this if they could possibly be losing money out of it, right? Oh, but my friend, why do you misjudge human stupidity this much? For a reason that I cannot explain, yes, video game companies see their games tanking and they feel a-okay about it. Possibly because they rely on the quantity of games released rather than quality. So that in the end you can pump out so much garbage that the market will be flooded with terrible games. And it won't be hard for one of your games to stand out. But for game developers such as From Software or Sony, who treat games like art, they still do that in 2023, who aim to win that Game of the Year award, this outcome based around money won't cut it. Because they know people's expectations run on reputation. And this in itself is how you can generate good marketing, on the simple quality of your product, meaning actual ethical revenue that no one can have a problem with. For game developers that make games for the money and that's it, they couldn't give two shits about if you enjoy the game or not, if you even get a finished experience or not. But guess which route most game developers will run with? Even companies who were once good and proud about their work in delivering amazing gaming experience traded all that for some couple extra bucks. And when I mean a couple extra bucks, I mean in the millions. I think with Halo being the most infamous case, when the original company, Bungie, says that the game is done, then the game is done. The story is told, everything that was to be created was created. You expect companies to take a hint. Good things have to come to an end, and the best practice is to end it on a good footnote. But Microsoft doesn't take hints. Microsoft takes money.
Here for money. Money.
And that's why Microsoft tried their hardest to revive a game that literally pulled its own life support out, like a parent who is desperate that they're gonna lose their wonder child. All this because they needed a platform for a live service game. And of course Halo already has a fan base, so they thought, why not? They use its corpse to generate even more revenue after it's dead. And yes, that is some dark shit, and that's what they're doing to our favorite games. But I hear what might be one of your concerns. Game developers have to eat too. In the end of the day, this is a business, an industry that has to generate profit. Now don't get me wrong, I agree with this statement 100%. In fact, from this, competition is generated and usually also means improved quality, since now game developers have a purpose to steal your attention. But I feel like it's pretty disingenuous from companies to devalue our money that we already give for a released copy. If we were to talk about free-to-play games or games that do not require a purchased copy, like War Thunder, I can understand the point of microtransactions and sustained monetization, if they are still of reasonable value.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
But considering the average price of a AAA game to be in the fields of $60 or even above now, with prices getting bumped to $70 or even $80. I mean, this is no chump change. $80 for a lot of people means half a month of food, good food. And this is where we can hear some of the game developers justify their microtransactions with, oh, it's for maidens, so it's to support the ever-rising cost of producing games nowadays. Bullshit.
Don't try to come over here and tell me they're not profiting off these big, massive AAA games, because they are. So don't be fooled that, oh, we barely can afford to make the next Call of Duty. Meanwhile, Call of Duty 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010.
The new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 from 2022 generated around $800 million in just 3 days, opposed to the original Modern Warfare from 2009 that generated around $500 million in 5 days. It's not even close. And surely some of them could get more expensive by the day, some franchises, but the top list of the most expensive games ever released still holds games that were released a whole decade back. Battlefield 4 with 100 million, Max Payne 3 with 105 million, GTA 5 with 137 million, and Destiny with 140 million. And you want to know the kicker? The number 2 place actually belongs to a 2011 game, Star Wars The Old Republic, with $200 million spent, which considering today's inflation actually makes it even more expensive than the new Modern Warfare 2. And it only loses to Star Citizen, which I'm pretty sure no one knows if it's a game or not. I think it's a myth at this point. Sure, you can get top-of-the-line games like this Modern Warfare that cost $250 million to make, but most modern games don't reach this value anywhere close. What people don't realize that with the evolution of graphics and quality and all that, it also came bigger budgets, bigger audiences, and above all, more sophisticated tools like pre-built engines and toolkits. Back in the early 2000s, games were becoming more popular, but were still treated as a niche interest. Remember that we're still living at this time an era where people were labeled as an insult, you know, nerds and geeks, where nowadays we toss that word around like it's van owners tossing out candy. And yes, I took the family-friendly route on that one. But you get what I'm saying. And we were talking about people who pretty much had to invent everything. They had to invent their own toolkits, their own engines, the way to make games, the methodology to make a game. They had to basically reinvent everything. Today, their profit margins are insane. They keep increasing every day and there's no sign of it ever stopping anytime soon. So don't for a second feel sorry for AAA developers. They generate more money than Hollywood. I'm sure we instantly think of Bethesda, EA, and Ubisoft for their multiple years of scummy behavior over monetization.
There's nothing here that makes you feel special. No. It's literally garbage! It's trash! Every fucking pool is trash! So what's the point?
And certainly they were pretty much the pioneers in that dog shit practice, and are still pretty much the biggest offenders in scale. But unfortunately, even indie game developers nowadays are taking notes. Now, this game is not popular by any extent of the word. Squad is pretty much a military simulator that has around maybe 12,000 people playing, which is still more than Halo. Jab jab. And don't get me wrong, it's pretty much the game that I play the most, more than 1,000 hours. You can judge me, go ahead. But I love the game. And it is made by Offworld Industries, which is pretty much an indie developer. But recently they were taking some funding from Tencent, and some of you may know Tencent as this Chinese giant that pretty much ruined a lot of fucking games that we knew. Now, this game came off like DayZ. It was pretty much a mod for a certain game, in this case was from Battlefield, that got so popular that the guys decided to create a company and make the game. And they did. And the very first version of the game was full of soul, and it was what gamers always wanted with Battlefield, a more realistic approach. Fast forward a few years, these guys leave, and in comes a new administration that absolutely backtracks their promise in never monetizing content. And what is their very first idea of monetizing the game for a mil sim? You're gonna love this one. Emotes.
You serious? Pay for what? Standing there?
That's right. Military simulator is going to get emotes. They thought this was going to be a good idea. And obviously people did not receive that pretty well. Now, sure, you know, it's $4, $5, whatever they're asking for a package of emotes that is pretty much trash. Even for $5, it's not worth it for the reasons that I explained before. And I can understand the leniency you might have towards indie developers, since after all they don't cash in that much. But even if circumstances can be equated in our judgment, it doesn't justify the practice. Not when they nearly charge us AAA game pricing. That's a lot of money for an indie developer. And mind you, they don't have dedicated servers, which I understand as an indie developer. I mean, Rockstar does it, and it's a multi-million-dollar company. So obviously I'm gonna allow indie developers to have some sort of leeway here, but that means that they don't have any kind of cost to maintain. So where the fuck is the $45 that people have to pay for this game going? And unfortunately, of course, they see it's like, you know, little kids seeing their parents doing some bad shit. They're just gonna do it again because they think that's normal. And I guess it is nowadays, but players still get pretty much fucking pissed off for a good reason. Especially when these additions pretty much break the lore or immersion of the game. We are to blame too. Sure, I have no right in telling people what they can or not do with their own money, but people have to understand that their actions have repercussions that affects not only them, but everyone else. And when you give up something that you don't have to give up, just so the company can get richer and richer, you need to understand that you're destroying gaming as a whole as well.
Well, this is absolutely outrageous. He's purchased a AAA title, and we're witnessing him fully willing to part with more money within said game. Why do adventurers do this? Why isn't there an outcry? Something must be done. Oh, it's the new age of the video game industry now. It's demand and supply. It's the free market at work. It's laissez-faire. Well, it doesn't sound very fair to me.
This is not even a situation of bend down or else. Companies have no power here.
We don't want you fucking
Microtransactions.
You do. They're the ones who have to fight between themselves to get your money. You don't have to accept microtransactions because that's the only way you'll get better content. We were getting content way before microtransactions. That's a mentality they inserted in you. But like bad wages, microtransactions only exist because people allow them to exist. We keep endorsing such behavior. If people stopped working such shit-paying jobs, we wouldn't have a need for minimum wage. The same way employers have to fight to get you, video game developers have to fight to get your money. When you have beloved franchises like Diablo getting turned into mobile goddamn games, that should be your wake-up call.
Current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah.
That was so bad, goddamn. Why is our mobile game getting booed at a PC convention? I don't understand. Come on. So maybe instead of us feeling sorry for ourselves, we should start resisting. Even a tiny 99-cent microtransaction. Because as long as we keep buying them, they'll keep offering.